There are horrors beyond life's edge that we do not suspect, and once in a while, man's evil prying calls them just within our range. H.P. Lovecraft, The Thing on the Doorstep.
We feel safe in our homes. It's a place where we feel the most secure. It is a place where we invite the good in and keep the evil out. We let our guard down here, and we are the most vulnerable. Sometimes, like a cool draft, evil is right under our noses. And sometimes, we invite it in without knowing it and have it stare us right in the eyes.
This is Kimberly. And I'm Kristen, and welcome to the Murder and Myths podcast, episode 5. It's all fun and games until someone loses an eye.
The Papin sisters came from a troubled family in Le Mans. They were born to Clemence and Gustave Papin. In October 1901, Clemence became pregnant, and by social standards, she married Gustave. Baby Amelia Papin arrived in February 1902, and it was rumored that Gustave may not be the baby's father. Gustave and Clemence would have 2 more children together, Christine born in 1905 and Leah born in 1911. The marriage between Gustave and Clemence appeared to be a loveless one on her side, and her children were unwanted. Clemence would send both Christine and Amelia to be raised by their aunt on her insistence. Clemence would be rumored to be having an affair with her boss and put all her time and interest into him and not her family. When Gustave tried to move Clemence out of Le Mans, she attempted suicide. She began to pull away from her family, and Gustave's drinking increased. When Clemence gave birth to Leah in 1911, it was told by Clemence that her daughter Amelia was sexually abused by Gustave. Clemence would divorce Gustave for cheating on her with her daughter and blamed Amelia for the abuse. Amelia was sent to live in an orphanage that was ran by a convent. When she was old enough, Amelia would enter a convent, in which for all intent and purpose ended her relationship with her family, and she would remain there for the rest of her days. After the divorce, Clemence sent Leah to live with an uncle, and Christine was placed in the same orphanage as Amelia. During this time, the details of the girls are not documented, and there are some accounts that Christine and Leah spent time in a mental institution. In France, parents had say to where their children worked and lived until they were 21. So in 1926, they were now old enough to work. The girls had never left their hometown or have been anywhere glamorous, or even visited their country's capital. Amelia would become a nun, and Christine was forbid by her mother to follow in Amelia's footsteps. Clemence wanted Christine and Leah to work as domestic servants so they could send her money. The girls worked several jobs, and they would give their salaries to their mother. Christine came to live and be taken in by the Lansin family, and Leah would join her 2 months later. Finally, they were able to have a job where they could be together. René Lansin was a retired solicitor in the town of Le Mans. The mansion was home to René, his wife Leonie, and their daughter Genevieve. Christine was the family cook, and Leah cleaned the home. The Papin sisters were considered good girls and excellent housemaids. Every Sunday they would dress up and attend church, and preferred their own company over that of other people. They showed no interest in going to cafes, theaters, or even cinemas. Each day they would have a 2-hour break after lunch, which they would spend in their bedroom together. When Madame Lansin found that the girls were giving their wages to their mother, she told Clemence the girls would no longer be providing her money. In October 1929, the sisters ended the relationship with their mother. In 1933, the Papin sisters had worked for the Lansins for 6 years. Miss Lansin and her daughter came home the evening before meeting up with René for dinner. They do not know the reason that they had returned home. They had come home to a mostly dark house. It had been the second time this week that a malfunctioning iron had caused an electrical fuse to blow while Christine was ironing. The day they returned home, a repairman had returned the iron at the girls' expense, stating that he could not find anything wrong with it. When Christine had informed Miss Lansin that the iron broke again, the madame was so angry that a dispute broke out. There had been other difficulties in the past with Miss Lanson, and she could be very harsh with the girls. The girls said that Madame would beat them if they did not do a good job, and the abuse had escalated where Madame would slam their heads against the wall. She would put on her white gloves and check for dust and make Leah go back and clean places that she already cleaned, take wages out of things that were broken, and regularly gave feedback about Christine's cooking by having her daughter Genevieve deliver notes to the kitchen. This time, Christine snapped. At the top of the stairs on the first floor landing, Christine lunged at Genevieve and tore her eyes out with her fingers. Leah quickly joined in the struggle and grabbed Miss Lanson, in which Christine cried out, "Tear her eyes out," ordering Leah to gouge out Miss Lanson's eyes. Christine ran down the stairs to the kitchen to get a knife and hammer. She went back upstairs, where they both bludgeoned and sliced the mother and daughter. The sisters then grabbed a pewter pitcher from a nearby table and began to bash in the heads of the two women. Rene was supposed to meet his wife at a friend's house for dinner, and when she didn't show up, he went back home to look for her. When he approached the house, he noticed a faint glow coming from the upper levels of the house. The doors were locked when he approached. This seemed highly suspicious, so Mr. Lanson went to the police. When the police entered the home, what they found behind those locked doors was described to be an orgy of blood. The police slowly climbed the stairs to find the two dead women. Both of the women's skirts were up and their underwear pulled down. The police discovered that Genevieve's legs and buttocks had deep knife lacerations like meat being prepared for dinner. Both of their faces were unrecognizable and there were teeth scattered all over the room. One of Genevieve's eyes was on the top of the stairs while her other eye was under her body. Hidden in the folds of Miss Lanson's dress was both her eyes, and she was lying on her back with her legs apart and only one shoe on. Genevieve's body was facing down, and next to her hip was the bloody kitchen knife. Blood covered the entire scene, and blood was even on the walls 2 meters above the bodies. The police searched the rest of the house, wondering if the killer had done the same to the maids. The door to their bedroom was locked and had to be opened by a locksmith. The police entered the room and discovered the girls in bed together nude. Next to the bed on a chair was a bloody hammer with bits of hair stuck on it. Christine proclaimed, "I'd rather have had out our boss's hides than for them to have ours." The sisters immediately confessed to the crime and went peacefully with the police. The girls later told the police that they had cut the legs after the women had died and used the victims' menstrual blood and blood from their wounds to baste the women. After the killings, the girls prepared for bed as they would have a normal night. Christine's confession to the police reads as follows. "Seeing that Mademoiselle Lanson was going to rush at me, I flung myself in her face and tore her eyes out with my fingers. When I saw that I had flung myself at Mademoiselle, that's wrong. I flung myself at Genevieve Lanson and tore her eyes out. While this was going on, my sister Leah leapt at Mademoiselle Lanson and tore her eyes out. When we'd done that, they lay and squatted down on the spot. Then I hurried down to the kitchen to get a hammer and a kitchen knife. With these two instruments, my sister and I set about our two mistresses. We hit them over their heads with the hammer and slashed their bodies and legs with the knife. We also hit them with a pewter jug, which was on a little table on the landing, and we changed instruments several times. I handed the hammer to my sister, and she handed me the knife. We did the same thing with the pewter jug. The victims began howling, but I don't actually remember them saying anything. The police arrested the sisters and took them into custody. Christine became distressed and would have fits and try to gouge out her own eyes when the police separated the girls. She had to be placed in a straitjacket to prevent her from self-harming. When the police eventually allowed the sisters to meet, authorities claimed that Christine behaved and spoke in a way that implied a sexual relationship between the two. The courts would have evaluations of the girls, and Christine would display an indifference towards the world and not have attachments to anyone except Leah. The evaluations reported that Christine's love for Leah was only of that of family devotion and not sexual. Leah, on the other hand, looked up to Christine as her mother figure since her mother was so absent in her life. She reported to have no pathological or mental disorders. Doctors would declare the girls sane and that their close union had them act out together. One doctor testified that the girls were not normal. He stated that their personalities were merged together, causing Leah to lose her identity in the dominant Christine. There was no Christine and there was no Leah, and the killer was a joint personality of the two. Crowds gathered outside the courtroom and demanded the death penalty. The people called for the sisters to be beheaded, but no woman had been beheaded in France since 1887. The courtroom was filled with journalists who took an interest in the appearance of Christine and Leah. The photos of the sisters before court looking angelic and beautiful, and the after the arrest photos looking hattered and crazed splashed across the newspapers. The inspector noted that the women were, quote, like little girls in school when the inspector comes around, this frail girl hunched up in her coat, and the overexcited shrew we saw on the night of the crime, end quote. The defense lawyer in turn stated, I found, instead of two brutes, two poor girls. The girls answered all the questions with whispers or silence and didn't suggest that they had a grudge against the Lansons. 3 psychologists stated that it was in their opinion that the sisters were guilty as charged and had no mercy for their crimes. The lawyer representing Mr. Lanson and his family ended his statements with, since they behaved like wild animals, they must be treated like savages and wild animals. Dr. Longray was a known specialist in mental illness and was called as a witness for the defense and wanted him to focus on the sisters' mental states and the fact that they committed such a crime with no remorse. He said to the court the extraordinary moral duo formed by the two sisters in which the young one's personality was absolutely annihilated by the older one's. He later said in an interview that the Papin sisters gave every appearance of having an abnormal relationship, that of lovers. They never went out, neither was known to have any emotional adventures. When they were separated in prison, Christine showed the most intense despair. A love forcibly removed from his beloved mistress would not have shown greater signs of grief. It took the jury 4 minutes to deliberate and found the Papin sisters guilty. Christine was given the death penalty and sentenced to be guillotined, and Leah was convicted of 10 years of hard labor. Upon hearing her sentence, it is reported that Christine fell to her knees. Leah appealed against her sentence right away, but Christine refused. Some people found this crime to be a reflection of poor working conditions and class separation. However, some believe that the girls had a decent life with their employers. They ate the same meals, they had a generous monthly salary, plus there was no logical motive for such a crime. The Papin girls went to prison. Leah's appeal was rejected and Christine's sentence was lowered by President Lebrun to hard labor for life, and the sisters were sent to a prison in Reims. Christine did not do well in prison and would exhibit bouts of madness and became depressed and refused to eat. Christine did not do well in prison and would exhibit bouts of madness and became depressed and refused to eat. When she was reunited with Leah, she did not recognize her other than saying, "She is very nice, but she's not my sister." Christine was transferred to a mental institution where she would die from self-inflicted malnutrition in May 1937. Leah demonstrated amazing behavior and served only 8 years of her 10-year sentence, and in 1941 became a free woman. She wasn't allowed to live back in Le Mans, so she went to live in Nantes, about 50 miles away. Despite never coming to see her in prison, Leah ended up moving in with her mother in France until Clemence's death. Leah changed her name to Marie and worked at hotels as a maid and tried to stay anonymous. A journalist tracked her down in 1966 and stated that she was a ghost of the past that has burnt until she was the color of ash. She had a small room she was living in that had mementos from Christine and lace from the Lansons' house. Some say she died in 1982, but a documentary called In the Search of the Papin Sisters claimed that they had found Leah living in a hospice in France. The woman was partially paralyzed from a stroke and was unable to speak. This woman passed away in 2000. Mr. Lanson was unable to sell his house after the murders had occurred, and he ended up living there with a housekeeper until he died 20 years after the crime. The house changed hands twice over the years, and as of 1999, it is the only house on the street not to bear a house number.
Much like the Papin sisters removing the eyes from their employers, there is a case of another whose eyes were also removed by an enemy. When we last departed from Egyptian mythology, Set murdered his brother Wasir and assumed the throne of Kemet. Meanwhile, Wasir's wife and Set's sister Aset became impregnated by copulating with her husband's body prior to his journey to rule in the Duat. That child, Heru, has been fighting with Set for the throne. The Ennead, a group of gods, have gathered in tribunal to judge the matter and determine who the rightful ruler of Egypt should be. Many of them want to award the office to Heru, but Ra, the universal lord, wished Set to sit upon the throne. Set was convinced that if he could just go outside with Heru, he could demonstrate with his own hands that he had the strength and power to rule. The Ennead declined to let the trial come to blows, as had so often been the case with Set and Heru lately. To reach a decision, they asked more gods their opinion on the matter. Jehuti sent a letter to Neet, the mother of the gods, for her advice. What shall we do for these two individuals who for 80 years now have been in the tribunal, but neither of whom can be judged? Please write us what we should do. Neet sent her response to the court. Award the office of Wasir to his son Heru. Don't commit such blatant acts of inequity which are illegal, or I shall become so furious that the sky will touch the ground. Ra, the universal lord, ought to be told. Enrich Set in his possessions. Give him your 2 daughters and instill Heru in the position of his father Wasir. The Ennead judged Neet's words as wise and correct, but Ra became fierce and spat at Heru. You are dreadful, and you could not live up to the duty required to sit on this throne. Ra then ordered the 2 to plead their case. I am Set, greatest in virility among the Ennead, for I slay the evil serpent, the enemy of Ra, every day while I am at the prow of the boat of millions of years. For this task there is no other god that is able to accomplish it. I should rule the 2 lands. Before Heru could speak his piece, bickering occurred between the judges. For how could one give the throne to an uncle while the son of the king still lives? But should the throne be given to a mere child while the brother could rule? Finally, Heru spoke up. I am being cheated and being deprived of the office of my father. This back and forth went on for quite some time, and it seemed like the tides were turning in Heru's favor, as it was declared that the white crown of Upper Egypt should be placed upon his head, while Set continued ruling in Lower Egypt. While there was some peace during this time, it came at the expense of the country being divided. To reassert his dominance and strength, Set issued a challenge to his nephew for the rule of the unified country. Come, let's both transform ourselves into hippopotamuses and submerge deep in the waters for 3 whole months. Whoever emerges from the water during that time shall forfeit their claim to the throne. And so they did transform themselves into hippos and submerged themselves in the deep waters of the Nile. There, the 2 hippos battled beneath the surface of the water. Much time passed, and Aset became worried that Set would kill her son. She fashioned a magical harpoon out of yarn and copper and thrust the weapon into the thrashing water. The harpoon hit flesh, and the water turned red with blood. A hippo with a harpoon in its flank rose from the depths and roared, "Help me, mother! Bid your barbs to release me. It is your son Heru you have injured." Aset commanded the harpoon to release her son. It obeyed and returned itself to her hands. She then thrust the harpoon at the other hippopotamus. Set let out a roar and called out to Aset, "What have I done against you, my sister? Appeal to your copper to let go of me. Aset, I am your brother." Her heart softened for her brother, and she commanded the harpoon to release him. Heru, seeing his mother release his enemy, leapt from the water towards her, his face fiercer than a leopard. Heru then cut off his mother's head with one swift arc of his sword, then took her head with him as he stalked up a mountain. Aset, mistress of magic, transformed her body into a statue and walked to the tent where the Ennead was gathered. They were shocked and horrified at the violence her son had inflicted upon her. Jehuti replaced her head with that of a cow, and the Enneads set out to find Heru and inflict a punishment against him. Set, who was also out looking for the boy, found him resting in an oasis under the shade of a tree. Set threw Heru down upon the mountain. Then the Lord of Strength and Power took his hands and tore both of Heru's eyes out of their sockets, leaving the young god blinded. Set buried the eyes there on the mountain, where they grew into lotuses. When Set returned to the tent of the Ennead, he told the gods, "I did not find Heru." Still searching, Heteret came across the blinded Heru weeping in the desert. She caught a gazelle and milked it, putting the milk into the empty eye sockets on Heru's face. When she commanded him to open his eyes, he discovered that they were healed by the Mistress of Gladness. Heteret reported what she had learned to the Ennead, and they summoned both Set and Heru to them for judgment. The Ennead decreed that the two stop their quarreling every day so they could have some peace. Set demanded one more contest between himself and the youth. "We will build for ourselves some stone ships and race each other. The winner will be awarded the office of ruler." Set cut off a mountaintop to use as his boat. Meanwhile, in secret, Heru built a boat out of pine and plastered it with gypsum to give it the appearance of stone. When they launched their ships, Set's mountain-top boat sank to the bottom of the river. Set transformed himself into a hippopotamus and struck out at Heru's boat until the wood splintered and the ship was scuttled. Heru took out his spear and poised to hurl it at the hippo, but the Ennead forbid him from taking this course of action. Heru took his complaint to Neat the Great. "Let judgment be passed on me and Set, seeing that it is 80 years now that we have been in the tribunal, and they have been unable to pass judgment on us." Jehuti suggested that the Ennead write a letter to Wesir so that he may judge between the two, and Ra, the Universal Lord, agreed that this was good, and so told Jehuti to write it. "Please write us what we should do for Heru and Set, so that we do not exercise authority ignorantly." When this letter reached Wesir, he answered it quickly, and the response was sent to the place where the Universal Lord was together with the Ennead. Wesir's letter said, "Why should my son Heru be cheated when it was I that made you mighty, and it was I who could create barley and emmer in order to sustain the gods when none of you were competent enough to do it?" Ra Harakti answered, "If you had not come into being, and you had not been born, barley and emmer would exist anyway." Wasir responded threateningly. As for the land in which I am in, it is filled with savage-faced messengers who do not fear any god or goddess. I have but to let them go forth, and they will fetch the heart of whoever commits misdeeds, and they will be here with me. Indeed, what is the meaning of my happening to be resting in the west while you are all outside? Who among you is there that is mightier than I? The Ennead judged that Wasir was doubly correct in all that he had said, and Heru was vindicated. They placed upon his head the crowns and bestowed upon him the rule of all Egypt. Still, there was the matter of what to do with Set, who had for a long time refused the judgment of the Ennead. Ra-Harakti declared, "Let Set, son of Nut, be delivered to me so that he may dwell with me, being in my company as a son, and he shall thunder in the sky and be feared." And that is how Set became the Lord of Storms and thunder his voice, and Heru, the king of all of Egypt. Stay tuned, because after this quick break, Kim and I will discuss the stories we just told in our reaction segment.
My name is Michael Whelan, and I am the host of a podcast called Unresolved. In 2015, before the true crime podcasting wave really kicked off, I wanted to start a show that focused on not only the gory details, but the human stories at the center of every mystery. Because for every unsolved murder or baffling experience, there are multiple lives left without an answer. Since I started the podcast, I have tried to focus on unfinished stories, both big and small, to try and figure out why and how some of us are left without any resolution. I'm interested in learning about these unknown aspects of life, and I hope that you are too. Check out my podcast, Unresolved, on your podcast app of choice, or just stop by the show's website, unresolved.me, to learn more.
All right, and that was episode 5. All fun and games till someone loses an eye. First of all, wow, 5 episodes.
Yeah, yay!
We're almost old enough to go to kindergarten.
I was in kindergarten by 5.
Not into these standards. Got a cutoff date now. But yes, we had 2 stories. We had the Papin sisters and their horrific crimes.
Yep.
And then you talked about basically a Egyptian god rap battle back and forth.
That actually would have been funny as a rap battle.
It's very like diss back and forth.
Yeah,
but
there was a lot of that going on.
yeah. So yeah, I don't know what it is. Okay, so I have to preface this by, if you go out and you're Googling the Papin sisters, the like crime scene photos come up. I'm just going to preface, I don't know what it is about this Victorian photo, but it scares the bejeebers out of me. Like, it makes me uncomfortable. And I have to note, again, I really love and enjoy, I don't know, that's weird to say, reading about Victorian age crime and forensics and et cetera, et cetera. And what was interesting about the photo is that when they had found the ladies, their dresses had been hiked up over their faces.
Right, which was weird.
They were cutting them up and hiding their eyes.
Yeah.
Because it was illegal at the time to photograph genitalia, the police had gone in and redressed the women and folded their dresses down so they're like fully clothed in the photo, which again, forensically, you wouldn't want to do that. But I guess there was some law that they couldn't photograph
the lady bits.
Yeah, the lady bits. For just, I don't know, the purposes.
It did strike me a little odd, like the first time when you were doing the read through, and you're kind of talking about like how both of these ladies like had their legs spread. Mm-hmm. And then it's like you find the two sisters like nude in their room, and there's like this discussion on whether they have a sexual relationship. Mm-hmm. Like it struck me just kind of like the posing of the, maybe not necessarily posing, but how the women were discovered. Yeah. Kind of read as like almost like a sexual assault to me.
Yeah, it's a whole weird thing of like I talked about like the face crimes where people are like destroying the face. Yeah. And it's like it goes into that thing of these two having I don't think they knew where one began and one ended. Right. And it's one of those things where they came from such a horrific upbringing that I think that they just essentially had each other. Mm-hmm. And I don't think it was, and again, the whole thing for them finding naked, it was speculation. Like the cops say that, but then another cop said no, they were dressed. And so it's like, I think a lot of the nude thing is put in maybe just to like fluff the piece a little bit, make it a little more whoo. Okay. But it maybe was, but again, who knows? Who knows? It was just one of those things like at the time it wasn't that whole thing of like, oh, it's a mother-daughter relationship. Yeah. But then it was like when they were separated, they couldn't handle being apart. And then the one died of depression and not eating. And the other one went on to live her life, which is interesting to me sometimes, like how some people are just released. Yeah. France released the cannibal.
I know, it was the cannibal and now these guys.
Yeah, I'm not sure with how their court system works. It would be really interesting to find out.
Strangely, I guess. Yeah. I will have to say, like, this episode, of all of the episodes for me, I think was kind of the worst to do because I have an intense, like, phobia of eye stuff. It just makes me very uncomfortable.
You have no idea this whole time how much I've been wanting to, like, get something out of my eye, like, put my finger under my eyelid and, like, get it out. And I'm like, God, I cannot wait to start going home so that I can scratch my eye and like not have you freak out.
Yeah, it's just I had a lot of trauma with my eyes as a child, so it's just like it evokes this really visceral response. So I can't even imagine like that would be like either having someone trying to like gouge my eyes out or even me thinking about doing that to another person. It's just it makes me really uncomfortable.
Well, and the fact that they like just did it. Yeah. And then, like, that was the first thing they went was for the eyes. And these poor ladies, like, I mean, they were not deceased when that happened. And it was just, it was, I remember, like, telling you about this. Like, I'd put this on our Google Doc, and I was all eye plucking. And she was like, and then I was like, yeah, we're just going to, this one's going to be that, like, a ride.
It'll be all right.
Yeah, so.
It was all right, I guess.
It's kind of interesting. It'd be interesting to see what their like sister Amelia, who was in the like convent, like if she just completely didn't know or just like went on to like not care anymore. Yeah. But this family was just like messed up, and these poor girls. I don't know. I don't want to say like, oh, I feel sorry for them, but like it just who knows what like. Right. It was one of those things where like by their standards at the time, they did have a pretty good work and home situation as far as they were paid a lot more than most help. They were treated, like they got to eat at the same tables. They got to have good food. They never went hungry. And they had time off, which is weird because they had like 2 hours a day, but worked like 20-hour days or something weird. You know, they had long 14-hour days, had Sundays off for church. And that was basically it. And then it's like, okay, so the flip side of that was reports that the lady was mean, she abused them, and this and that and that and that, but like nowhere that I could find that the husband could confirm that. So either he didn't see the abuse or just wasn't home, or like if that actually happened, like it's so...
I mean, regardless of like what their working situation was, there definitely was that trauma earlier in their life with their father that I think it says he raped Emily, right?
There was, like... So, what I could find out is the mom made it up. Like, it was, like, Emily never confirmed that happened.
Oh.
So I think the mother had used it to get divorced.
Got it. Okay.
Because I don't know if there were some reports saying that she was doing it so that she could go get with her boss, and she just didn't want to be married. And,
So maybe or maybe didn't.
Not to make light of that kind of situation, right. But there was, Emily had never confirmed that actually happened, and it was only told by the mother that the dad did it. But then, he cheated on her with her daughter, blamed the daughter for it. So I don't know. I mean, I don't know. It was messed up. The girls definitely had a very bad upbringing.
Yeah.
And I don't know if something that, the mademoiselle had done triggered something, and just they snapped.
They snapped and just acted out of that trauma, possibly.
And there was things like, more of the court proceedings were saying that that Christine may have suffered from a mental disorder. She may have had they were talking about schizophrenia, possible bipolar, but they don't know that. It's just something wasn't right about her, and then her sister just kind of was part of it.
Yeah. And
so it was just, I don't know. It's a pretty horrific crime. I don't know why, but this one always really bugged me.
I mean, I
writing
think
this.
It was so unexpected. It's nothing that you talked about ever really, it wasn't like these girls were abusing animals or, getting into fights or, they were kind of I guess loners or hermits. They just wanted to kind of hang out with each other. But, it was just kind of where did this come from? And it was so violent. It's not it was
very violent.
Oh, I accidentally pushed you down the stairs and now you died. And it was straight out of the gate, gouging your eyes out. And then they're not even dead. And we're going to get a hammer. We're going to get a knife. And it's just so insanely brutal.
Well, that's the thing. No one could figure out what caused it. I mean, the court couldn't figure it out. They kind of didn't really confess. They confessed that they did it, but they didn't give a motive why. Right. There was only speculation. It was because of the possible abuse, or I don't know. And it was just they had committed the crime. The other sister just kind of went along with it, and then it was done. I don't know. It's interesting. It's just, it was, I mean, if you go out there and look at those photos, just be warned. I don't know what it is about it. I kept telling her, I was like, that photo scares the shit out of me. I don't know why. It's I've seen a lot of messed up photos. I've seen some messed up things in my day, but I don't know what it is about that particular one that just, I can't look at it.
Yeah. Well, I know you've got to be disturbed by it, because it's the first time that you haven't been here, look at this photo, that I found. It's, no, please don't look it up.
I'm not looking it up.
I have such an eye. I would see those.
No, you can't even. That's the thing that's so horrible about it. The photo, I'll just kind of briefly describe it to you, but it's there's just, you see the two victims and it's just nothing. Their heads are just gone. And it's
that's right, because they got cut and stabbed.
And it's just it's
hammer smash.
I don't know. It just makes me really uncomfortable, because it's just I don't know.
And that poor husband that couldn't sell the house and just had to live there for the next 20 years.
That was the thing that kind of creeped me out, because I mean, that really stinks. I mean, it really does. And the fact that until this day, there's no house number. I don't know how popular the crime, if there's people still talk about it or whatever. And it's weird, because if you look, okay, so I found the house and looked it up, modern time, and it's a row of townhomes, basically, a street that lines of townhomes, and it's house number, no house number, house number. And it's not, it's you would know. I don't know why they didn't just assign it a different number.
Right, exactly.
Or call it 2B or whatever. I don't know what the reasoning behind that is.
We'll just go to... Well, I guess so you couldn't put the house number into Google Maps and find it.
Yeah, I don't know.
You'd have to know, what the...
I totally did and found it.
Okay, well...
No, it's it's not, a secret. I mean, it's... I don't know. Just... I don't know if it's... They just are doing it out of respect or something. I'm not really sure.
It'd be interesting to see what the, if you could find out the reasoning and behind that. So if anyone out there knows,
if you're in France, can you ask what's up with that?
I'd like to know.
But it's weird because, when you look up certain crimes or people visit a place, I didn't see any photos of anyone visiting the home or new photos of the home.
Mm-hmm.
Like, there was no photos of the inside of the home that I could find. I was just curious, like, oh, it'd be interesting to see how much it sold for.
Yeah.
But there's no, like, French Zillow, so I couldn't, like, be that nosy. I tried.
Oh,
but it was, but, you know, it would be interesting to see what the house looks like from the inside now in modern time.
Yeah.
It's really interesting. It's a interesting home, and I don't know. It seems like I don't know. It's a whole thing. It dumbfounds me. The whole case dumbfounds me.
Yeah, it
makes me uncomfortable.
Agreed. Yeah, the whole eye thing just to start it off was just no, thank you.
Your cat walking by right now just scared the shit out of me.
Was it the one-eyed cat?
That's the one-eyed cat. How appropriate.
How appropriate.
Yeah, you have a one-eyed cat.
I do.
I suggested a couple days ago that we should put a googly eye on his face because I felt that, I don't know, I'm a bad person.
I think it would be funny to see that, but
there was a debate on how to attach the googly eye, and then we can't do it to the cat.
No,
like,
he's very sweet.
He's very sweet. I like him.
Yeah, he's the better of the two cats.
He does photograph well. I'm not gonna lie. I think I have pictures of him from when I had to feed him one time.
I will put a picture of my one-eyed cat on the show notes.
Yes, and we will Photoshop a googly eye on him.
Yeah, there you go. Air quotes Photoshop.
No, don't say that.
No, we're not gluing a googly eye to my cat.
We're not gonna tape or
No.
anything.
Right.
No.
Maybe if he's like sleeping and he's posed just
lay it on
appropriately,
there.
but then his other eye will be closed and it will just not make any sense.
Just put two googly eyes on.
So yeah, surprisingly enough, the person with like the really awful eye issues,
I just have preference, in case you didn't remember, it's Chris. It's
Tacoma, the cat. And actually, when I first met him, his other eye was still in his head. It was just, quasi in his head. It was prop toast at the time.
Oh my god!
So,
and if anyone doesn't know what that means, it's out of the socket, not necessarily hanging, but it's bulging out, and it's.
Sorry, I'm all using my medical terms here.
It happens to a lot of the animals that have like the bug eyes, like Boston Terriers, Frenchies, Pugs, and Bulldogs, and etc. But anyway, moving on.
Yeah. Just
she has a one-eyed cat.
I want a cat.
Summary of the story.
Yes. Yeah. So on to other eye stuff.
Oh.
Yeah. Unless you have anything else you want to talk about your crime?
No, I think that's it. It's pretty. I don't know.
It's weird to me that they kind of say that they didn't have a personality. There was no Christine, there was no Leah. They were one person, one personality. But then Christine got sentenced to beheading, and then Leah only got 10 years hard labor. So I
think that is because they knew she was the mastermind of the crime.
Mm-hmm.
And I think they felt like the other one was following along with her.
Okay.
Like, I think in some instance, like some hearings, there's been a thing where it's like, well, I told them to do it, but I also, you know what I mean? Like, I think they knew that Leah wouldn't have done that on her own unless she was influenced by her sister. But if you think about it, like, people are like, oh, they're like the same person or whatever. This is like a total side note here that I'm going to talk about this, but like, you and I look very different. Like, she and I are very different in every aspect you could think, by height, weight, complexion, like, everything is different. But for some I don't even know, people mix us up.
All the time.
I had worked with people, we had worked with people for 7 years and still would call me her name or vice versa.
Right.
Usually I'm being called you, I think. I don't know if it's...
I got a fair numbers of Kims.
Yeah, and we had people that were like, oh, you guys, like, we start sounding the same, or like, I've even noticed we finish sentences in here, like, say the same thing.
This is true.
And so it's like, I think when you're around someone a lot,
right,
this happens. And I guess with them, if they're only with each other, I guess you would essentially become like that embodiment of somebody.
I could see that. I still don't understand people that are looking at the two of us and have known us for 7 years calling us by the wrong names.
And that has happened.
Yeah.
That has happened.
It has happened more than once.
And I mean, it was one of those things where I think, okay, this is like going into the story now. Like, we were going to a soccer game, like local soccer games here pretty regularly, and there's a support group, and we had been in that group for a long time. And I think it was like a year later, like, people were finally they thought I was you and you were me, or...
We even thought about getting like custom kits, like my soccer kit on the back would say not Kim.
And mine would say not Kristen.
Just because it was, it was...
So we just finished a thing there.
We did.
God damn it.
No wonder we're confusing.
This is why. And then it's like, I noticed, like, since we've done this podcast, that we sound alike sometimes.
That's true.
Minus this cold I'm still fighting.
Yeah.
But yeah. I guess so. So, I mean, I guess we just, like, myth busted that whole thing.
Yeah. There you go. Speaking of myths... I continued the kind of like, I don't know, the first myth. The first myth is, the first one that I told in last episode is the Osiris myth, or the Wesseer myth, and then this one is the contendings of Horus and Set, or Heru and Set, as I've been referring to them. But for me, it's just like this one long story of Set wanting to take the throne of Egypt, getting the throne of Egypt, and then losing the throne of Egypt. So there was that whole their whole fighting.
I keep calling it like a rap god battle, rap battle.
Rap battle.
It's I mean, it's this whole like, I'm gonna do this and you're gonna like give me all your riches, and then the other one's like, here, well, oh no, I'm gonna pass them on to so and so when you die because I'm gonna kill you. And it's always like, oh shit. It's like these long drawn out soliloquies of like,
yes,
And
I cut a number of the soliloquies out, just for time's sake, and not, I mean, like for me, who's really familiar with Egyptian mythology, like I could read through those long, like liturgies of titles of different gods, and okay, it makes perfect sense to me, and I had actually left a lot of that in, and then we're doing our first read through, and Kim's like, okay, you've lost me, and I'm like, okay, yeah, let me take my Egyptology glasses off.
Oh, it's not even like a lie. She was reading this through, and I'm like, head to the side. I'm all, I don't get it. Like, I'm all, what's happening?
So cut a bunch of that out just to try to make this story easier to follow for someone.
And I heard phallus and like, what? Like, I got interested.
Yeah. So there was a bit that was originally in there about like, how to put this. So Set, I'm trying to think of like how they actually put it, because I really, really liked that. Performed the act of a male upon Heru.
Oh dear.
And yeah, there's this whole like semen collection part, and then Set eating some lettuce that had Heru's semen on it unknowingly, and then the calling forth of the semen and talking semen. So
it was like not your usual. It would be an off-menu P.F. Chang's item.
Like, the Set lettuce wrap.
Oh yeah, it's like the ones they give the like bad customers, like the people that are like really rude. They're like, oh, we'll make sure to get you a Set lettuce wrap and not those commoner lettuce wraps.
Oh my gosh, that is hilarious.
Oh, P.F. Chang's might not think so. Please don't sue us.
Yeah. Generic, hypothetical P.F. Chang's.
Yeah, we said B.F. Chang's.
Yeah,
there
that's
it is.
what it was.
That was.
Yeah, that's funny. So I think I will. I mean, I'm gonna cover. Like I said, I'm gonna do an extended myths based on these last two episodes, just because there's a lot of information that is disputed based on the source that didn't get included. I just think that there's a lot of source material there that kind of warrants going a little bit further in depth in the mythology, and so I will talk about the talking semen. We'll have a conversation with the talking semen in the extended mythology part. But in this one, basically we have Set, who has sort of usurped the throne by killing his brother, trying to hold on to it.
A lot of sibling like fighting. This one, it's funny because my siblings liked each other. Yours are always at war.
Yes. Yeah, that was true. In this one, yeah, your siblings were one person, and my siblings were all over the place here. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think my favorite part is the hippopotamus battle.
Okay, I have questions about that.
Yeah.
Ironically, your shirt has a hippo on it.
It does.
It's just staring at me. Okay, so if they were to throw a It was a harpoon?
Yeah. Isis made, or
Okay.
Aset. You could tell, like, while this was really hard for me, because I like to refer to the Egyptian gods by their Egyptian names, but everyone knows them by their Greek names, and whenever you read about them, it's in
What's the
their Greek
Greek
names.
name?
Isis.
Oh.
Yeah.
So you could say that their names were like Hippo Bozo the Clown, and I'd be like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, this is why I'm learning while we're going.
Taweret was the hippopotamus goddess.
Taweret?
Taweret.
You know my favorite one is still like...
Jehudi.
Jehudi with the booty. Like, that is totally like...
That's his new theme song now.
Yeah, that's my
Oh, that's hilarious.
Yeah, please don't come smite me, or whatever it is you do in Egypt. So...
Hippos.
Like, okay, not a hippo expert. I'm sitting next to a hippo expert. So, like, if you were to harpoon a hippo, I don't think you could penetrate it. Don't they have, like, crazy tough eyes? Okay. Magic aside...
Incorrect.
What?
And here's what... No. Let me rephrase that. I don't exactly know. But in a lot of depictions of hippo hunting in Egypt, it's always a harpoon that they're using to hunt hippos with.
Why?
They're big animals, but it's not like their skin is... Like,
I always think they're gelatinous.
I think it would be harder to put a spear through a crocodile than a hippo.
Well, a crocodile has, like, armored.
Yeah.
Where a hippo, I feel, is, like, a gelatinous being.
Blubber.
Like a manatee. They're like the manatee of the land.
Land manatees.
Land manatees.
Yeah.
Because I don't know, like, I don't see, like, they're tough, I would think.
Yeah, I don't think that I could throw a harpoon through a hippo, but I'm also
not with my arm. I couldn't anymore.
I'm also not Aset. I also didn't make a magical harpoon out of copper and a skein of yarn. So,
damn, man. I mean, in D&D land, she's rolling some 20s. There is no way, like, I don't know. I would have critically failed that whole thing and been killed by that hippo.
Well, she didn't crit because she hit the wrong hippo.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's like the DM was like, you know what? I'll let you go ahead and fashion the harpoon. You're like, what is it? What skill would you use to even fashion the harpoon now? We're going to get into this. Intelligence? No.
I don't play magic classes, so I couldn't really tell you.
I mean, just like,
But it was a magical harpoon.
Okay.
Just to do like a a regular harpoon.
I should know this. I fucking DM.
I know. I'm like, you're looking at me, and I'm like, I haven't DM'd since like version.
The point is
3.
The point is, I think that like she would have rolled. She like rolled like a 16, and they said, okay, your thing will strike the hippo.
Yeah.
And then it was like a bad throw.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was a bad throw because she hit her.
Did they look alike? Did those hippos look the same?
I mean.
She's a hippoist is what it is.
She's a hippoist. Well, in this one, sometimes Set is a red hippo.
Wait.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
His skin, I know it's black here, but he's a lot of times depicted as having a red head.
So red hippo, and then what's the color of the
But in this one it doesn't, like, in this, it...
Maybe I think she was looking at the butts.
I think they were both just two hippos. Like... You're telling me you're going to be able to identify two hippos that are fighting underwater and be able to tell me which hippo is which.
No, I get my kids mixed up. You think I'm going to be able to tell two hippos apart?
Right. No.
Preface, I have like identical twins, so...
That's not. So, I don't think... I think it would have been hard for her to tell which hippo was which.
And that water's probably murky.
The Nile actually isn't all that. I mean, it's not super,
would you drink out of the Nile?
No, I don't want parasites.
Oh. I guess that's a good reason.
Yeah. I mean, I would... Yeah, no. I mean, I did not drink Nile water while I was in Egypt. I did not eat watermelon specifically for that reason as well.
Really?
Uh-huh.
Oh. Uh-huh. Look at me. She saw my light bulb go on. That's why, yeah.
But yeah, I mean, it wasn't like the Mississippi River. I mean, it was not that dirty.
Well, like, Mississippi River is not, like, dirty to, like, I think pollution. It's, like, dirt and stuff,
Yeah.
right? Like it's red, isn't it? I don't know.
Yeah, it's kind of like murky.
I don't live on that side of the country, so I've actually never seen the Mississippi.
I have seen it.
It is
Comparatively, from the Mississippi to the Nile is much clearer. At least
you wouldn't drink out of it.
No, because there's legitimately parasites.
What kind of parasites?
I'm sure Giardia.
Ew.
Yeah.
Okay.
You know me, I've got like an iron stomach. I ate so much stuff.
I got worried your cat was literally going to chuck a hairball just now. It got in position and I was like,
did.
I'm going home.
No, you'll know that he's going to like vomit because he has a very specific pre-vomit meow.
Would you like to demonstrate the pre-vomit meow for our audience?
No, I would not. But yeah, so I just, yeah, so I don't think it was, I think Osset could see the two hippos fighting, but I just don't think, and you got to think, they're thrashing around in the water. It's like churning up.
Yeah, okay, that makes sense.
Yeah.
I guess in my head they were just like chilling.
No, they were fighting.
Like rap battles, I'm like, they're apart from each other.
Yeah. No,
one of them was wearing a lot of gold and they're like talking shit about each other's moms and Benihanas.
Yeah, we gotta have the Benihana in there.
I know, I learned that from you.
I know. That's why I'm not a famous rapper yet, because I haven't gone out to the Benihana.
You have to take me out to Benihanas.
Yeah. Then we
Just
can
say
do a
we
rap
did that.
album. Yeah, and it'll be fun.
Benihanas, if you want to like support this podcast, give us a shout out.
but not BF Chang's.
But not PF well, yeah. I have nothing against PF Chang's, but
No, I've eaten there. It's good.
oh, I have too. I'm gonna make fun of those lettuce wraps for the end of time now.
Yep.
Yeah.
Thanks, Set.
Yeah.
Good old Uncle Set.
I'm gonna go and be like, I'll take a set wrap, please.
Lettuce was considered an aphrodisiac.
Lettuce?
So it was associated with virility.
Why?
I don't know.
It is the most useless
They ate a lot of it.
vegetable.
Well, Set ate it every day, and it's said that he was the most virile of the gods.
It's probably because he ate so much of it, he had the trots.
Oh gosh, no. Oh,
I mean,
wow.
I don't know if it causes that if you eat a lot of lettuce.
I mean, I've never eaten that much lettuce
I can't say
to know that. Yeah, the other part I really enjoyed about that myth is also Set's brilliant idea of, hey, I need one last competition with Heru. I know, let's make boats out of stone.
I know in my day I've come up with some pretty stupid shit. Like, you've known me a long time.
Maybe it was the devil's lettuce.
The devil's lettuce.
That would explain the stone boat idea.
The stoned boat? You see what I did there?
I do.
Oh, terrible.
Yeah.
Well, I guess I would, then in that instance, if we're going to talk about the devil's lettuce,
It would make everything
it would make
sense.
more fucking sense than just regular lettuce. There's nothing
Yeah.
sexy about lettuce. Or oysters. I don't get it.
Yeah, I don't know. But it was said to be an aphrodisiac,
ever
associated with Min, the god with the erect phallus. And just because you like that word so much, apparently.
No, it's just funny. It's like those romance, again, we're talking about fucking romance novels.
Yeah.
It's like coming up with all the names for different parts of the body.
Exactly. Yeah. So, yeah, the stone
Call it what
the
it
stone
is.
boats.
It's not sexy to call it medically what it is.
A
So,
penis.
well, right. So you're like the phallus or, manhood.
Member.
Or whatever, the member. Only member I am of is Costco.
Oh my.
Oh, anyway. Yeah, I don't. Anyway, yeah. Now you've distracted me.
I'm sorry.
It's okay.
I just,
Back to your stoned
back
boats.
to the stoned boat. The stone boats. Yeah, I loved that idea. Like, let's race down the Nile in stone boats. And Set's like, I know. I don't need to build a boat. I'm just gonna chop the fucking top of this mountain off. Throw it in the water. That'll work. Surprise and spoiler, it did not work.
Yeah,
Who would have thunk?
I've done a lot of stupid shit in my day. Like, I'm just gonna circle back to that, but like, No.
You've never chopped the top off of a mountain and tried to use it as a water vessel?
No. I can't think of anything like that I've used to try to make a water vessel. Like off the top of my head. Like, I mean, they weren't in like an emergency situation. But I've never been like, I think I'm going to make a boat today.
Yeah. Nope. Neither have I.
Nope. Can't say
and
that.
I don't think I'd use the top of a mountain. I did like that Heru was kind of clever and like, I'm going to build this boat out of pine because wood will float. It'll be great.
Oh my God.
And then I'm just going to cover it with gypsum so it looks like stone.
It's the 3 little pigs.
One makes stone.
It's like, I'm going to make my boat out of stone. Mine's going to be out of mountain. And then the other one's like, I'm going to build my boat of sticks. Like, that's totally what's happening.
Of papyrus reeds.
Oh my God. I hate that name and I hate the font. I'm just going to say it out loud right now, like to the public. Public proclamation.
She hates papyrus, the font.
The font.
The
No
font's
one
pretty
should
cool.
use it.
No one should use it. And I do a lot of like ancient Egyptian stuff and I won't touch it. I'm like, no, thank you.
Oh, it's so cliche.
It is.
Just like really throw everyone off and use like Times New Roman.
Right. Well, actual hieroglyphics. Good luck reading that, everyone.
I'm all bird, 2 lines, weird eye, monkey, and baboon.
Baboon. Also, speaking of Jehudi with the booty that you love so much, an alternate form of his is a baboon.
It would be. Mm-hmm. Look at me go.
Jehudi with the booty.
Look at me go. I didn't even know.
You knew without knowing.
I don't even know. I think I'm going to make that my new Twitter handle.
Jehudi with the booty.
That could be my like callback.
That'd be hilarious.
Jehudi with the booty.
Yeah.
I'd spell it wrong. I don't even know how to spell it. Let me see. That would be with a J.
It starts with a D.
Well, I'm done.
Yeah. DJEHUTY.
Oh my God, DJ Hootie.
DJ Hootie. Oh, there you go. Rap battle.
Oh my God. I don't think
He would be like the MC that would be like determining the winner and stuff. He'd be like hosting the rap battle.
I think
if you got into a rap battle with Jehudi, though, I think of all of the gods of the Egyptian pantheon.
Thanks for listening to Murder and
Jehudi
Myths,
would be the one
a
I would
bi-weekly
not
podcast.
want to get into a rap battle
This
with.
was episode 4.
You know, he probably uses a lot of auto-tune and shit, though.
Yeah, he would kill you with his lyrics, though. Like, he's a master of words. Why do you think he's the one that's always writing the letters? Everyone's like, oh, we need to write a letter to this god. Jehudi, you do it.
God, he's like the Alexander Hamilton
Yes.
of Egypt.
Of Egypt, yeah. Just writing like it's going out of style.
Jehudi with the booty. Just you wait. I can keep going. I'm not going to do it.
This is going to be great. So far we have an Alexander cannibal musical, and now we have the Egyptian Jehudi version.
Jehudi. Yeah. Yeah.
It's going to be great. Lin-Manuel Miranda's going to sue us.
No one will come. Your mom might show up.
Yeah.
My mom won't remember to, so it doesn't matter.
Yeah. So I don't think there's anything else I want to really get in or need to get into about this one, other than I'm going to like a little bit more intellectually than a 1 o'clock in the morning off the cuff reaction segment. Get into these myths a little bit more in depth in an extended myth podcast, which will probably come out a week from today.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you guys for listening to episode 5.
No.
It's episode 5. It's all fun and games until someone loses an eye.
Or our minds.
At
1 a.m.
Yep. All right. Peace out, y'all.
Djibouti.
Thanks for listening to Murder and Myths, a bi-weekly podcast. This was episode 5. It's all fun and games until someone loses an eye.
Please review us on Apple Podcasts. The reviews and ratings help us tremendously. For the month of March, if you leave us a review on Apple Podcasts and email us a screenshot of the review to murderandmyths@gmail.com, you will be entered in our giveaway. One lucky reviewer will win 2 Murder and Myth themed buttons and a secret bonus prize. 2 runners-up will receive 1 button of their choice.
Join us in 2 weeks for episode 6.
cut my life into pieces.
And as always, come for the murder
and stay for the myths.